I recently purchased this Mercedes GT63 from auction. It turned out to be footballer Ashley Young's car. I mean, what are the chances of that? Being only a 21 plate and being well within the warranty period, I spoke to Mercedes on why it wasn't covered. They told me it was due to driver error, which I later found out was a coolant leak which had led to the engine overheating badly. It then got sent to auction where I found the car and bought it for £86,000. When it arrived to us at Boost Performance, we confirmed there was literally no coolant in the bottle, and after doing further checks we found the engine had no compression, which meant only one thing: a full engine strip down is required. Today we rebuild the engine back up, so sit tight and enjoy the show. What's happening, people? It's your boy Nams. Today is finally that day where we build up the Mercedes GT63s engine. As you can see, we've got the block here and we've got one of the cylinder heads over here as well. I've left the other side open for a reason, just so I can show you what we've done to it. So if you remember in part 2, this cylinder head, when we measured it with the plastic gauge, the reason this went to the machine shop is because it was out of shape from the overheating. So when it's out of shape, that's the reason we had a loss of compression. This basically seals directly over here where the pistons are. This is the block surface. Obviously, if you have any sort of uneven surfaces across here, you are going to lose compression, and on our case, the car would not start at all. In fact, if we come down here, check out these grooves. This proves that this is a freshly skimmed cylinder head and it should be good to go. Let's confirm that. Now this feeler gauge shouldn't go through anymore. Can you see that? That is exactly how it should be. It should not go through. If you remember in part 2, I'll drop a video in now. This gauge in some of the areas was going right through, which means it's not even. That is what you call a perfectly skimmed cylinder head. So anyway, we're gonna crack on. I'm gonna film it as we go, and we're gonna build up this whole M177 4-litre V8 twin turbo engine till we get to the end. And of course the final part will be dropping it back into the car. So let's get started. So, I'm excited to announce the launch of my new business. It will be a competition website where you can win the projects that I do on YouTube and more. So when you guys participate in this competition, not only are you in a chance to win a car, you are also massively supporting the channel, so I can bring you guys much better content. That's a win-win, right? Now the first car that will be available will be the Audi S3 project, which I've recently done on my channel. If you haven't watched that yet, I've left a link below, so make sure you go check that out. Next Sunday, I'll be announcing the website to you guys so you can get involved. The Audi S3 will be available from as little as £3.99, and with the maximum entries being only 3,500, the odds are very high. Anyway, more details of that next week. For now, back to today's video. So what we're doing over here right now is basically torquing this cylinder head down to spec. In here, you have the head bolts which secure the cylinder head to the block of the engine. Right, so now we're going to put the head gasket on this side, and this is the passenger side cylinder head. So this here is the head gasket which goes in between the block and the cylinder head. So we just place it down. These basically show you exactly the location. Yeah, you can't be wrong basically.
This can be wrong.
Next up, we're going to put the cylinder head on. Here we go. Line it up. Right, so here we have a head bolt. This is what secures the cylinder head onto the block, and these must be torqued to the correct specifications given by Mercedes. Right, so for this engine, the torque settings for the head bolts are 14 Newton meters, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and 90 degrees again. So if you come around to this side, I'll actually show you what we're doing. There you go, 40 degrees spot on. So to torque it down, we use this snap-on torque wrench, and it is calibrated. That's to specify exactly how tight these head bolts should be to the cylinder block. That's it, spot on 90 degrees. So when torquing it down, we also got to tighten the bolts in a sequence. It's basically in a crossway. So the reason for that is to secure the head bolts down properly rather than just do it one by one. You got to do it in a pattern. So going back to the driver's side cylinder head, if you look in here, we've basically put in some assembly lube. Now the reason for that is to prevent a dry start when we first start up the engine. Of course, if you remember, there's no oil in this engine right now because we've obviously cleaned it up, it's all been removed. And when we start up the engine first, we will have to prime the oil pump to get around. But this just here is an extra precaution. If you guys ever wondered why it's called a V8, you can see it right there. This is the block and two cylinder heads. If you notice there's a V, that's the V, and the 8 makes up from the cylinders in the engine. So we had 4 circles, if you remember, before we put the head on. That's 4 and 4, makes it a V8. Same thing applies for a V6 as well. The camshafts are here. We've assembled 2 now. The other 2 are going to go on. Then we're going to put the turbocharger on, and then slowly build the engine back up again. This is the turbo manifold going on. We're going to put that on both sides before we put the turbo on top, and then we'll come round to timing up the engine, which will be the next part in this engine build. So for some reason my mic just stopped working at this scene, so I'll give you a quick update on the workshop. We've got an E60 M5 here in for clutch replacement. Quite common on these. I've seen quite a few V10 M5s with the clutch going. These are future classics. Very nice V10 5-litre engine. Over here we got Audi RS5. Again, common issue, rockers and lifters, they start making noises after about 2 or 3 years. This is a 19 plate, I believe, and also the turbo has seized on the driver's side. We're getting that change at the same time as well. Now onto the real beast. This is my R35 GTR 2021 plate, one of one in the world. I spec this from factory, brand new. Just look at it, absolutely stunning. I've got a video getting released on this very soon. Should be up on Thursday, I think. I'll run you through what my plans are with this. I've got loads of plans. As you all know, I'm a huge petrol head alongside these projects that I'm doing for YouTube. And yeah, I can't wait to share the journey with you on this one as well. So make sure you guys tune in for this special episode on Thursday, dropping on the GTR, running you through all the plans. Look at that. Yeah, bit of dumb valves you can see with the carbon bonnet. Here's the latest lift we installed in the workshop. And here's the GT63s. Absolute beauty with the engine removed. So we got both the manifolds on. Now the time for the turbo to come on. Let's go. Look at the size of these turbos. Humongous. Twin turbo mounted on top of the V8. Very nice piece of engineering here. Look at that. This looks like a beast. So the turbos are now fitted, mounted on top of the engine block. So the next part of this video is timing the engine up. I'll go through the exact process of what it takes to do timing on an M177 engine. Let's go. Now when you say time the engine, what we're trying to say is basically set the camshafts and the crankshaft in the set position so they correlate correctly, basically. So to do that, we obviously have timing tools, which we have over there. And yeah, we're going to start putting the tools on to lock the camshafts in place, and then we'll set the timing up correctly. So what these caps are going to do, they do look like cylinder head parts, but they're not. These are actually timing tools. So what we do is put them in and then screw them down. And what they're going to do is basically lock the camshafts in place. So when we are timing it, they don't move. It's very important they stay perfectly still where they are in order not to make timing mistakes. Now before we assemble the chain back up, we need to put the van nozzles back on. We've got the intake and the exhaust van nozzles. That's the exhaust and that's the intake van nozzle. What we're putting down in here is the timing chain tensioner. So what this does is basically applies pressure on the timing chain guide. Can't really see it, but it's inside. The guide is where the chain basically runs across. Once you tighten this, you'll put the timing chain tight in place. Now I'm going to explain how this is timed up. This here, what you can see is the crankshaft pulley. This bolt goes right into the crankshaft. Crankshaft runs across the engine block. And the idea is basically to get the camshaft and the crankshaft to be in tolerance to each other. How you do that is basically the correct positions. Now if you see here, we've got another tool here. It goes right through there and it only locks in a certain location. That tells us that the crankshaft is in the correct place. You then time up the above camshaft, and again this one, how you do it is with timing tools. So this camshaft, for example, if it was slightly turned, this tool would not go on. That's why these tools ensure accuracy. So as you can see in there, we've got the triangle there pointing up, triangle there pointing up. Once this is timed up at the top, and then over there, you then put the chains on, and then you can remove all the tools off basically. That now confirms that the timing is in place for this vehicle, strictly from this position here and those positions I just showed you. We can now remove the tools, and these caps will hold it in place, and we will then move on to the other side. So there you have it. One side is now successfully timed up. Moving on to the next one. Not that complicated, is it? Quite straightforward when you know what you're doing. Just a heads up as well, these are camshaft caps which come with the cylinder head. These are not timing tools, so these must be secured before we remove these, because what can happen is once you remove these, the camshafts can jump, causing damage to the camshafts and or other parts of the engine as well. Next step is putting the cam cover on, which is right here. We've just cleaned up the surface. We're going to apply some silicone over here and also on the cylinder head to create a perfect seal, and then screw it down, bolt it down, whatever you call it. There you go. This is the stuff we're using. Eliminates dry starts. What you don't want to do is start up an engine and cause damage to a freshly built engine. Next up, we're going to torque these bolts down to secure the cam cover onto the cylinder head. And as you can see, this side is more or less finished, and we're going to move on to the other side. Also, there is some crucial information I have missed out in the beginning of this video, and that was regarding the cylinder heads. So obviously I sent these heads off to the machine shop to be skimmed down, and what they told me was they took 16 thou off the heads, and that is a lot of material off the heads. Now because of that, they told me to compensate by using a thicker head gasket. Now the problem here is Mercedes don't do a thicker head gasket for this car. So what my option is basically to get it skimmed to that level and take a risk and install it back together, or buy two cylinder heads, which is about 2.5 grand each plus the VAT, looking at around £6,000 for two heads. Now I think it will cost me a lot less to take the risk and try it. If it works, happy days. If not, I'll have to basically take it off and replace the heads, both of them. So yeah, just thought I'll give you this information now because it is very important. If for any reason when we start this engine up there is a problem with the heads, now you know the cause of it. So yeah, we're going to crack on. We're back tomorrow on the other side, timing it back up, and yeah, should be good to go. Alright, new day today, and we are back on the AMG GT63s engine. Now as you can see on the passenger side head, we have now done the timing and also fitted back the cam cover as well. So we are not far from completion right now. So now that we have timed up the engine, what we're going to do now is rotate the crank manually over here, and we're going to do that twice to ensure that the timing is correct and the pistons and the valves are not hitting each other. When you get the timing wrong, that's what tends to happen. When you're ready, let's rotate it. Now a crankshaft, obviously in a circle, spins 360 degrees in one turn. So we're going to do 2 turns or more to confirm. What's happening now is basically the crank is spinning up and the pistons are going up and down, basically as if the car's running. But we're doing it manually right now. And as you can see, we've got full rotation, no stoppage. If there was any stoppage or the engine was seized, it means the timing is off. So we're on to a good track so far. And I think the only thing we need to do now is basically box up the engine, finalize things. I believe it's the alternator left. Let's have a look. We've got some bits and pieces over here. This alternator, manifold, and a few bits and pieces. And of course the coolers at the front of the engine as well. And it should be good to completely box this engine up. Next up, we'll of course be putting the engine back into the car lining the gearbox up to the engine and exhaust. I think we're going to go for the start. So I just want to show you something as well. Where we're spinning the crank, this in turn is moving the chain as well. As I said before, it's as if the car is running. So on the back, this is the camshafts, they're turning, and of course the flywheel as well. Now that it's assembled, this looks so complicated. You've got pipes, wires, everything. It's like a complete puzzle that's been assembled together. Look at this madness. So there you have it, guys. Behind me is the mighty M177 V8 Mercedes GT63s engine, fully assembled back up. And there's the beast right behind, ready for the engine to go back in and go for the start. Very exciting times. Let's have a look. This looks like a mammoth, doesn't it? Look at that. Let's have a look at the engine bay. Look at this monster. There you have it. Nothing in there. Look how empty it looks without this V8. One thing's for sure, I'm sure you guys are very excited for me to start this engine back up. And so am I. I absolutely cannot wait. It's going to be an immense moment when we do so. Stay tuned, guys. So that will be all for this video. In the next part, we're going to be putting the engine and gearbox back into the car and going for the start pretty much. I'm very excited for that. I'm sure you guys are as well. So make sure you tune in. If you're new, subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave me a comment and give me a follow on my Instagram. I'll see you guys later.